The sky above rural Nebraska turned an unusual shade of purple as the Valaxian scout ship entered Earth's atmosphere. Most humans in the area mistook it for an approaching storm. Only the military radar operators knew better. Something big was coming, and it wasn't from this world. Lieutenant Gary Miller wiped sweat from his forehead as he peered through his binoculars. His 12-person Marine squad lay in position along the tree line. They had been there for 3 hours ever since. The strange object had been tracked on its descent path toward this empty stretch of farmland. "Anything yet, sir?" whispered Corporal Jeff Baker, the squad's youngest member at just 22. "Nothing. Just keep your eyes open and your finger off the trigger," Gary replied. His orders were clear: observe and report. Do not engage unless directly threatened. A diplomatic team was supposedly on the way, but they were still hours out. Until then, it was just Gary's squad watching a spaceship from another world. The massive vessel was unlike anything Gary had ever seen. It had no visible seams or rivets, just smooth, dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. It sat in the middle of Bill Hansen's cornfield, having crushed about an acre of crops during its landing. Sierra Actual to command. Still no movement from the object. "Request updated instructions, over," Gary said into his radio. The reply came back with static. "Command to Sierra Actual, maintain position. Reinforcements ETA 90 minutes. Diplomatic team ETA 3 hours. Acknowledge." Gary confirmed the orders and settled back into position. The summer heat was brutal, and the waiting was worse. Something had to happen soon. As if responding to his thoughts, a seam appeared in the side of the vessel. It widened into an opening, and a ramp extended to touch the ground. Gary raised his hand, signaling his squad to remain absolutely still. "Sierra Actual to command, we have movement. The craft is opening. Request permission to fall back to secondary position." Before command could respond, 3 massive figures emerged from the ship. They stood at least 8 feet tall, encased in what looked like mechanical suits of armor. Their movements were fluid, almost graceful despite their size. Each one had what appeared to be a weapon mounted on one arm. "Holy cow," whispered Baker. "They're real." "Quiet," Gary hissed. The radio crackled to life. "Command to Sierra Actual. Hold position. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage." The 3 armored figures spread out at the base of their ship. A 4th figure emerged, slightly smaller but with more elaborate markings on its suit. The leader, Gary guessed. It raised something in its hand, and suddenly a voice boomed across the field. It spoke in perfect, if oddly accented, English. "Attention. Earth vessel, we come representing the Galactic Consortium. Prepare for integration evaluation." Gary exchanged glances with Sergeant Maria Gonzalez, his second in command. "What the hell does that mean?" she whispered. Gary shook his head. "No idea. But I don't like the sound of integration." The leader spoke again. "Local military forces? We detect your presence. Approach and identify yourselves. Resistance is unnecessary and inefficient." Gary's radio buzzed. "Command to Sierra Actual. Do not respond to alien communication. Diplomatic team has been expedited. ETA now 90 minutes. Continue observation only." Gary acknowledged the order, but he was getting nervous. The aliens clearly knew they were there. How long before they decided to come looking? The answer came minutes later. 2 smaller objects detached from the main ship and began hovering above the cornfield. They were about the size of beach balls, metallic, and with no visible propulsion system. They moved in a grid pattern, clearly scanning the area. "Drones," muttered Sergeant Gonzalez. "They're mapping the terrain." One of the drones changed course. Heading directly toward the tree line where Gary's squad was hidden, Gary made a quick decision. "Everyone stay down and stay quiet. Let it pass over us." The drone approached slowly, hovering just above the treetops. It paused directly above Private Steve Johnson, who was positioned at the far end of their line. The drone emitted a soft blue light that swept over Johnson's position. Johnson, a 19-year-old from Iowa on his first deployment, panicked. He raised his rifle and fired a single shot. The sound of the M4 carbine shattered the silence. The drone jerked backward but didn't fall. Instead, it emitted a high-pitched whine. "Cease fire!" Gary shouted, but it was too late. The damage was done. At the ship. All four alien figures turned toward the trees. The leader raised its arm, and the voice boomed again. "Hostile action detected. Defensive measures authorized." The three larger aliens raised their arm-mounted weapons. Balls of bright energy shot from them, slamming into the trees above the Marine's position. Wood splintered and leaves burst into flame. "Fall back." "Secondary position now," Gary ordered. His squad began a practiced retreat, moving from cover to cover while maintaining their defensive formation. Staff Sergeant Frank Delgado, the squad's heavy weapons specialist, set up his M240 machine gun on a fallen log. "Covering fire, sir?" Gary hesitated. They were under attack, but engaging might escalate the situation beyond repair. Another energy blast decided for him, this one close enough to shower him with dirt. "Covering fire authorized." "Short bursts." "Only," Delgado opened fire. The machine gun roared, sending a stream of bullets toward the alien positions. The rounds seemed to hit some kind of invisible barrier around the aliens, flaring with blue light upon impact but causing no apparent damage. What happened next confused everyone. The aliens stopped advancing. Through his binoculars, Gary could see them huddling together, their helmeted heads bent in discussion. They seemed dawdled. The leader raised a device, pointing it toward Delgado's position. The machine gun roared. Again, as Delgado fired another burst, inside the Valaxian command group, Commander Zyktar was bewildered. "What are those sounds? Are they deploying sonic weapons?" Cultural specialist Trelawnor adjusted his sensors. "Unknown, Commander. The energy signature doesn't match any known weapon type. And there's something strange. The sounds seem to come before the energy impacts our shields. Could they be battle cries?" suggested Security Officer Renkar. "Many primitive species use vocalization to intimidate opponents." Trelawnor shook his head. "Too consistent. Too mechanical. And look, they're coming from those strange metal devices the humans are carrying." Zyktar considered this. "Are you suggesting those primitive tools are their weapons?" "Impossible. No advanced civilization would use such inefficient technology." "Yet our shields are registering impacts," Renkar noted. "Small, physical projectiles at high velocity." The roar sounded again, and more tiny objects pinged harmlessly against their shields. "Fascinating," Trelawnor said. "They've trained some kind of beast to launch these projectiles. Look how the one human controls the direction of the roaring." Zyktar raised his communicator. "Main vessel, we need a xenobiological analysis. The humans appear to be using some form of trained creature as weapons. They make distinctive roaring sounds and eject small metal objects." Back in the trees, Gary's squad had established a defensive perimeter at their secondary position. Command had finally responded to the situation, and reinforcements were being scrambled. "Sir," Gonzalez said, pointing toward the aliens, "they've stopped advancing. I think they're confused by our weapons." Gary watched through his binoculars. The aliens were indeed behaving strangely, gesturing toward Delgado's machine gun every time it fired. "Keep them at a distance," Gary ordered. "Fire only if they advance again." As the standoff continued, more Valaxian drones appeared. These ones stayed higher, out of range, observing the humans with various scanning devices inside the Valaxian ship. Commander Zyktar made a formal report to the consortium. First contact with Earth species complicated by unexpected defensive capabilities. Humans appear to command small but loud creatures that propel metal objects at high speed. Requesting research team and additional security forces before proceeding with integration assessment. On Earth, as the sun began to set over the Nebraska cornfields, both sides watched each other warily. The first contact between humanity and the Galactic Consortium had not gone as either expected. And this was only the beginning. The sunrise over Nebraska painted the sky orange and pink as Captain Lisa Winters arrived at the forward command post. 3 days had passed since first contact. 3 days of uneasy standoff between human military forces and the alien visitors, who called themselves Valaxians. Situation report, Lisa demanded as she entered the command tent. The air inside was cool from portable air conditioners, a stark contrast to the summer heat outside. Major Bill Peterson, who had been in command until her arrival, handed her a tablet. Aliens have maintained a defensive perimeter around their ship. They've deployed some kind of energy shield that extends about 50 yards in all directions. Our bullets can't penetrate it. Lisa studied the satellite imagery on the tablet. The alien vessel sat in the middle of the cornfield, surrounded by a faint blue glow visible even from space. Around it, at regular intervals, stood what appeared to be mechanical sentries. What about communication? She asked. Limited, Peterson replied. They broadcast messages in English every 6 hours. Always the same thing. Surrender your battle beasts and prepare for peaceful integration. We've tried responding, but they seem uninterested in dialogue. Lisa frowned. Battle beasts? What does that mean? Lieutenant Gary Miller, who had been present since first contact, stepped forward. Ma'am, we think there's been a misunderstanding. The aliens seem to believe our weapons are some kind of trained animals. That's ridiculous, Lisa said. Yes, ma'am, but from what we've observed, they react strangely every time we fire our weapons. They track the sound, not the bullets themselves. Their shields stop our rounds easily, but the sound seems to confuse them. Lisa considered this. So they think the guns themselves are alive? Or that the sound is coming from some creature? We're not sure, Miller admitted. But every time we've engaged, they focus on the source of the sound rather than the shooter. Inside the Valaxian ship, a similar conversation was taking place. Commander Zyktar stood before a holographic display showing the human military positions surrounding them. The reinforcements from the consortium will not arrive for another 2 planetary rotations, he told his officers. Until then, we must maintain our defensive posture. Cultural specialist Trelawney pointed to the display. The humans have established a circular containment pattern. They have positioned their sound beasts at strategic points around our perimeter. Have we made any progress understanding these creatures? Zyktar asked. Trelawney brought up another display showing recordings of human weapons fire. The creatures appear to be metal tubes of varying sizes. The humans hold them and point them in the direction they wish the creatures to attack. We've identified at least 3 distinct species based on their vocalizations. He played a recording. The sharp crack of a sniper rifle echoed through the room. This is the high-pitched variety. It seems to be the most precise. He played another recording. The rapid fire of an M4 carbine rattled through the speakers. This mid-range species is the most common. It makes rapid sounds in succession. Finally, he played the deep, rhythmic boom of a .50 caliber machine gun. And this larger species is the most concerning. Its vocalizations are much louder and seem to require more humans to control it. Zyktar studied the recordings. How do the humans communicate with these creatures? We've detected no control signals. Unknown, Trelawney admitted. But they seem to touch the creatures in specific ways before they vocalize. Perhaps some form of tactile command system? Outside the ship, Corporal Diane Martinez crawled through the tall grass with Private Alan Rodriguez. They had been sent to plant surveillance equipment as close to the alien shield as possible. Hold up, Martinez whispered, raising her hand. Ahead, one of the alien sentry drones hovered just beyond the shield perimeter. It moved in a regular pattern, sweeping back and forth along the edge of the field. Wait for it to pass, she instructed. Rodriguez nodded, his body tense but his breathing controlled. The drone drifted past their position. As soon as it was facing away, Martinez darted forward in a low crouch. She reached the edge of the shield, which appeared as a faint blue shimmer in the air. Carefully, she placed a small black device on the ground and pressed a button. A tiny green light blinked once, then went dark. Martinez backed away quickly, returning to Rodriguez's position. Package delivered. The drone suddenly changed direction, heading straight toward them. It must have detected something. Move! Martinez hissed. They began crawling backward through the grass. The drone approached the spot where Martinez had placed the surveillance device. It hovered there for a moment, then emitted a high-pitched whine. The shield directly in front of it rippled and then opened a small gap. The drone passed through. Entering the shielded area, another drone emerged from the ship and flew directly to the first drone's position. They seemed to be communicating, sharing data about what the first had found. They're on to us, Rodriguez whispered. Should we abort? Martinez shook her head. Mission first. The device is already planted. We need to get back and report. As they began to withdraw, the second drone suddenly turned in their direction. It emitted a bright beam of light that swept across the grass. Toward them. We're made, Martinez said. Run! They abandoned stealth and broke into a sprint back toward the tree line where the rest of their squad waited. Behind them, an alarm sounded from the alien ship. The shield rippled again, and 3 of the armored Valaxians emerged, carrying what looked like weapons. From the tree line, Staff Sergeant Frank Delgado saw his team members running back with aliens in pursuit. He didn't hesitate. Covering fire, he shouted, swinging his M240 machine gun toward the aliens. The weapon roared to life, sending a stream of bullets toward the Valaxians. The rounds impacted their personal shields, creating flashes of blue light but causing no apparent damage. Still, the aliens slowed their pursuit, clearly reacting to the sound of the gun inside their armored suits. The Valaxian security team was receiving warnings from their sensors. The large sound beast is active again, Security Officer Vrenkar reported. It's positioned in the trees directly ahead. Be cautious, Commander Zyktar responded over their communication system. We still don't understand how the humans control these creatures. If captured, do not approach the metal tubes. They may be dangerous even when not vocalizing. Back at the human command post, Captain Winters watched the confrontation through live drone footage. Hold fire unless absolutely necessary, she ordered over the radio. Get Martinez and Rodriguez back safely, then disengage. As Martinez and Rodriguez reached the tree line, the aliens stopped their pursuit. They stood at the edge of the cornfield, their armored forms imposing even from a distance. After a moment, they turned and walked back toward their ship. They're retreating, Miller reported. Martinez and Rodriguez are safe. Good, Lisa said. Did the surveillance device activate successfully? A communications officer nearby nodded. Yes, ma'am. We're receiving data now. Audio and limited visual. From just outside their shield perimeter. Excellent. Let's see if we can learn something useful about our visitors. As night fell, both sides settled into an uneasy calm. The humans analyzed the data from their surveillance device, while the Valaxians prepared for the arrival of their reinforcements. Neither side truly understood the other, but both were learning. In the Valaxian ship, Commander Zegtar made another report to his superiors. The humans continue to deploy their sound beasts against us. Our shields are effective against the physical projectiles, but the psychological impact of the creature's vocalizations cannot be discounted. Request xenobiological experts with the reinforcement team to help us understand how these primitives have developed such unusual symbiotic relationships with these metal organisms. In the human command post, Captain Winters drafted her own report. Aliens continue to misunderstand the nature of our weapons. This confusion may provide a tactical advantage. Recommend exploiting this misunderstanding while we develop more effective countermeasures against their shield technology. The misunderstanding between the two species was growing deeper, but a moment of clarity was coming, one that would change everything. Major Jack Simmons arrived at the forward command post exactly 1 week after first contact. He stepped out of the helicopter, ducking under the still spinning rotors, and was met by Captain Lisa Winters. Welcome to Nebraska, Major, Lisa said. Saluting. Jack returned the salute. Thank you, Captain. I hear we have some interesting new neighbors. That's one way to put it, Lisa replied as they walked toward the command tent. They've been relatively quiet for the past 48 hours. Their shield is still up, but they've reduced their patrol patterns. Inside the tent, Lisa introduced Jack to the rest of the command team. Maps and satellite images covered the walls, all showing the alien ship and the surrounding area. A large monitor displayed a live feed from the surveillance device Corporal Martinez had planted. "What's the latest intel?" Jack asked, studying the screens. Lieutenant Gary Miller stepped forward. "Sir, we've been monitoring their communications. They're expecting reinforcements soon, possibly within the next 12 hours. Jack frowned. That complicates things. "What about our diplomatic team?" "Still no progress," Lisa said. "The aliens refused to communicate except for their regular broadcasts, demanding we surrender our battle beasts." "About that," Jack said. "I've read the reports, but I want to hear it directly." "They think our guns are alive?" Gary nodded. "Yes, sir. Based on all our observations and the communications we've intercepted, they believe our weapons are some kind of trained creatures. They react to the sound of gunfire, not to the bullets themselves." Jack thought for a moment. "That's actually useful information. Have we tried using this misunderstanding to our advantage?" "Not yet," Lisa admitted. "We've been focused on maintaining the perimeter and gathering intelligence." "Well, that changes now," Jack said. "I want to run a test. Get me Staff Sergeant Delgado and his machine gun team." An hour later, Delgado and his team had set up 3 M240 machine guns at different positions around the alien perimeter. Jack gave them specific instructions about when and how to fire. "Remember, this is a test," he told them over the radio. "Short bursts only, and only on my command." Inside the Valaxian ship, Commander Zyktar was reviewing the latest data when Security Officer Vrenkar burst into the command center. "Commander, we're detecting movement at multiple points around our perimeter," Vrenkar reported. "The humans appear to be repositioning their sound beasts." Zyktar moved to the display. "Show me." The screen lit up with thermal images showing human soldiers moving through the trees. They were carrying the familiar metal tubes that the Valaxians now recognized as the creatures that made the loud roaring sounds. "They're establishing positions at these 3 points," Vrenkar said, marking locations on the display. "It appears to be a coordinated effort." "Are they preparing to attack?" Zyktar asked. Cultural specialist Trelenor, who had been listening, spoke up. "It's possible, but why now?" "They know our shields can withstand their projectiles." "Perhaps they've developed a new strategy," Zyktar suggested. "Increase shield power and alert all security teams." Back at the human command post, Jack Simmons watched the alien ship through binoculars. "They're reacting," he noted. "The shield just brightened. They're anticipating something." He picked up his radio. "All positions, this is actual. Commence. Operation Echo, fire when ready." At 3 points around the alien perimeter, machine guns opened fire. Each one fired in a distinct pattern. 3 short bursts, then a pause, then 2 long bursts. The sounds echoed across the open field. Inside the Valaxian ship, alarms blared. "Multiple sound beasts active," Vrenkar reported. They're using a new vocalization pattern." Zyktar studied the display. "Are they attacking or communicating?" "Unknown," Trelenor admitted. "But the pattern is too regular to be random?" "I believe they're trying to communicate with us through their creatures." The gunfire continued, each position maintaining its unique pattern. Jack watched the alien reaction closely. "Now for Phase 2, he said into his radio. "Positions Alpha and Charlie cease fire. Position Bravo continue pattern." 2 of the machine guns fell silent, leaving only one still firing its rhythmic bursts. The Valaxians noticed immediately. 2 of the sound beasts have stopped," Vrenkar reported. "Only the one at Position 2 continues." "Interesting," Zyktar said. "They're demonstrating control, showing us they can command these creatures to start and stop at will." "Should we respond?" Trelenor asked. Zyktar considered this. "Yes, lower the shield at Position 2 only. Let's see what they do." Outside, the blue glow of the shield dimmed at one specific point. Directly across from the still-firing machine gun, Jack saw it through his binoculars. "They're responding," he said. "Position Bravo, cease fire." The last machine gun fell silent. The area became still again. "Now what?" Lisa asked, standing beside Jack. Now we wait, he replied. Let's see if they'll make the next move. They didn't have to wait long. After a few minutes, a small opening appeared in the shield. One of the Valaxians stepped through, its armored form gleaming in the sunlight. It stood just outside the shield, waiting. They're offering a meeting, Jack said. Captain Winters, you're with me. Lieutenant Miller, have Sergeant Powell's squad ready as backup, but keep them out of sight. Jack and Lisa approached the alien slowly, walking across the open field with their hands visible. As they got closer, they could see that this Valaxian was different from the others. Its armor had more elaborate markings, and it stood slightly shorter than the security officers they had seen before, when they were about 10 feet apart. The alien spoke through some kind of translator device. I am Cultural Specialist Trelawnor of the Galactic Consortium. You have demonstrated controlled communication through your sound beasts. We wish to understand. Jack stepped forward. I am Major Jack Simmons of the United States Army. This is Captain Lisa Winters. We wish to communicate peacefully. Trelawnor tilted his helmeted head. Your sound beasts. The metal tubes that produce the loud vocalizations and eject small projectiles. What do you call them? Jack and Lisa exchanged glances. This was the misunderstanding they had heard about. They are not creatures, Jack explained. They are tools. Weapons, we call them guns. Trelawnor seemed confused. Not alive, but they make sounds. The sounds are mechanical, Lisa said. Like the sounds your ship makes. They are machines, not living things. This seemed to startle the alien. It stepped back slightly. Impossible. No advanced species would still use such primitive projectile technology. Jack smiled slightly, yet here we are. Trelawnor was quiet. For a moment, as if processing this information. Finally it spoke again. I must consult with my commander. This changes our understanding. We're happy to explain more, Jack offered. Perhaps a longer meeting with proper representatives from both sides, perhaps, Trelawnor said. But first I must verify your claim. May I observe one of these weapons more closely? Jack hesitated, then nodded. He turned and signaled to the tree line. Lieutenant Samantha Ortiz emerged carrying an unloaded M4 rifle. She walked slowly toward them. When she reached them, Jack took the rifle from her. This is one type of weapon we use, he explained, holding it out for Trelawnor to see, but not handing it over. It fires small metal projectiles at high speed. The sound is simply the mechanical process of the weapon operating. Trelawnor extended a sensor from his armor and scanned the rifle. Fascinating, a purely mechanical device. No neural components, no biological elements? He looked up at Jack. Your species relies on such technology for defense? Among other things, Jack said. We have more advanced weapons as well, but these are standard for our infantry forces. Trelawnor stepped back. I must report this to Commander Zyktar and the Consortium. This is ... expected. With that, the alien turned and walked back through the opening in the shield, which closed behind him. Lisa looked at Jack. That went better than expected. Jack nodded. We've opened a dialogue. And now they understand what they're actually dealing with. He smiled slightly, though I'm not sure if they're relieved or disappointed that our guns aren't actually trained beasts. What's our next move? Lisa asked as they walked back toward their lines. Now we prepare for their reinforcements, Jack said. And we continue to use their misunderstandings to our advantage. They underestimated us because they thought our technology was primitive. Let's show them that sometimes primitive works just fine. The night sky lit up with bright blue flashes as the Valaxian reinforcements arrived. 3 ships, each larger than the original scout vessel, descended through the clouds and took position above the cornfield. Their engines hummed with a deep, resonant tone that seemed to vibrate the air itself. Major Jack Simmons watched from the command tent, his face illuminated by the glow of the monitor. Right on schedule, he muttered. Lisa Winters stood beside him. That's a lot more firepower than we expected. Jack nodded grimly. Get me Washington on the line. And alert all units to maintain position, but do not engage unless fired. The radio operator quickly established a secure connection to the Pentagon. Jack spoke quietly but urgently into the microphone, updating his superiors on the new development. When he finished, he turned to his team. Orders are to continue diplomatic efforts, but we're getting reinforcements of our own. The 75th Ranger Regiment is being deployed, along with additional air support. They'll be here by morning. Lieutenant Gary Miller looked concerned. Sir, do we have anything that can even scratch those ships if things go south? Not yet, Jack admitted, but the Air Force is sending some experimental weapons they've been working on. Until then, we stick to the plan. We use their misunderstanding of our technology to buy time. Inside the main Valaxian vessel, Commander Zyktar greeted Senior Commander Vrelzith, his superior officer who had arrived with the reinforcement fleet. Welcome to Earth, Senior Commander, Zyktar said, bowing slightly. I apologize for the unusual circumstances of our mission. Vrelzith, taller and more imposing than Zyktar, studied the holographic display showing the human forces surrounding them. Your reports were concerning, Commander. The consortium is not pleased with the delay in the integration assessment. There have been complications, Zyktar explained. The humans are more resilient and adaptable than we anticipated. So I gather, Vrelzith said dryly. You reported that they use primitive projectile weapons, yet somehow have managed to hold your forces at bay for over a week. Cultural Specialist Trellinor stepped forward. If I may, Senior Commander, the human strength lies not in their technology, but in their tactical approach. They are remarkably disciplined and organized. Vrelzith turned to Trellinor. Explain. Their weapons are indeed primitive mechanical devices that launch small metal projectiles using chemical propellants. But they use them with precision and coordination that suggests a highly developed military doctrine. They have established a containment perimeter around us that is quite sophisticated. And they no longer believe our weapons are living creatures? Vrelzith asked. Correct, Zyktar said. That was a misunderstanding on our part. However, we have learned something even more interesting. The humans appear to have limited shield technology of their own. What? Vrelzith seemed surprised. Your reports mention no such capability. We discovered it only yesterday, Zyktar explained. During a brief skirmish, one of our energy pulses was deflected by a personal shield carried by a human soldier. The technology appears crude and limited, but the fact that they have it at all is unexpected. What Zyktar didn't know was that what he had observed wasn't a shield at all. It was a lucky shot that had hit the metal plate in the soldier's body armor, causing the energy to dissipate in a way that looked similar to their own shield technology. As dawn broke over the Nebraska countryside, the human forces were busy preparing for the arrival of their reinforcements. Sergeant Linda Powell led a small squad on a reconnaissance mission to establish observation posts closer to the alien perimeter. Move quietly, she whispered to her team as they crawled through the tall grass. Their sensors might be more advanced than the first ships. Private Kevin Young, the newest member of her squad, moved carefully beside her. Sarge, what's that? He asked, pointing to a small object hovering near the alien shield. Linda raised her binoculars. New type of drone, stay low and avoid line of sight. The squad continued their approach, using the contours of the land for cover. They reached their designated position, a small depression about 200 yards from the alien shield. Set. Up here, Linda ordered. Rodriguez, get the surveillance equipment online. Young, you're on watch. The rest of you establish the perimeter. The team worked quickly and efficiently, placing cameras and sensors that would provide valuable intelligence on the new alien ships. As they finished, Linda noticed movement near the original scout ship. A group of Valaxians, including one in the more elaborate armor of Cultural Specialist Trellinor, emerged and approached the shield perimeter. Heads up, she said into her radio. We have movement at the primary ship. Looks like our alien friends want another chat. Back at the command post, Jack received the message. Captain Winters, you're with me. Lieutenant Miller, have a security. Team ready, but keep them out of sight. I don't want to appear threatening, Jack and Lisa approached the shield perimeter, walking openly across the field. When they reached the spot where they had met Trellinor before, they stopped and waited. After a few moments, the shield shimmered and an opening appeared. Trellinor stepped through, along with another Valaxian whose armor was even more elaborate. "An imposing Major Simmons," Trellinor said. "This is Senior Commander Vrelzeth of the Galactic Consortium. He wishes to speak with you directly." Jack nodded respectfully. "We welcome the opportunity for dialogue." Vrelzeth studied the humans carefully before speaking. "Major Simmons, I understand there has been some and confusion regarding your species' technological development." "That's one way to put it," Jack replied evenly. "Your weapons are indeed primitive by our standards," Vrelzeth continued, "yet you use them effectively. And now we learn that you possess limited shield technology as well." Jack was momentarily confused, then realized what the alien was referring to, the misunderstanding about their body armor. He decided not to correct it. "We have many technologies," he said carefully. "Some more visible than others." Vrelzeth seemed to consider this. "The Consortium's protocol for integration requires an assessment of a species' technological and cultural development. Based on initial scans, your world was categorized as a Level 3 civilization, worthy of guidance but not full membership." "And now?" Lisa asked. "Now I am less certain," Vrelzeth admitted. "Your military capabilities suggest a higher level of organization than your general technology would indicate." As they spoke, a sudden commotion came from the tree line. A deer, startled by the hidden human soldiers, burst from the woods and ran across the open field. One of the Valaxian security officers, responding to the unexpected movement, raised its weapon and fired. A bolt of energy struck near the deer, missing it but causing the animal to change direction straight toward Jack and the others. Without hesitation, Staff Sergeant Frank Delgado, who had been hidden nearby as backup, raised his rifle and fired a single shot. The deer dropped instantly, the clean shot bringing it down just 20 yards from the meeting. The Valaxians reacted immediately, raising their weapons. Jack held up his hands. "Hold fire!" he shouted to his own people. "It was just to stop the animal," Trellinor quickly explained to Vrelzeth what had happened. The senior commander lowered his weapon slowly. "Your soldier's aim is impressive," Vrelzeth noted. "A single shot at that distance to neutralize a moving target. Standard training," Jack said with a shrug. Nothing special. This was not strictly true. Delgado was one of the best marksmen in the unit, but Jack saw no reason to correct the alien's assumption that such skill was common. Vrelzeth turned to Trellinor. "I wish to see more of their capabilities." "Arrange a demonstration, sir?" Trellinor seemed uncertain. "If we are to properly categorize this species, we need more information," Vrelzeth explained. "One want to see their weapons in operation under controlled conditions." Trellinor translated this request to Jack, who considered it carefully. "A demonstration could be arranged," he said finally, "but I would need authorization from my superiors." "Of course," Vrelzeth said. "We will await your response." As the aliens returned to their ship, Lisa turned to Jack. "A demonstration? Is that wise?" Jack smiled slightly. "It's exactly what we need. A chance to show them just how effective our primitive weapons can be on our terms." The demonstration area was set up in a clearing half a mile from the alien ships. Wooden targets shaped like human silhouettes stood at various distances, from 25 yards to 500. A shooting line had been established, with different stations for different weapons. Major Jack Simmons surveyed the setup with satisfaction. "Everything ready?" Lieutenant Samantha Ortiz nodded. "Yes, sir. All weapons are prepared, and the selected personnel are standing by." It had been 2 days since the meeting with Senior Commander Vrelzeth. In that time, both human and alien reinforcements had arrived. The 75th Ranger Regiment was now in position around the alien perimeter, along with several units from other branches of the military. The Pentagon had approved the weapons demonstration, seeing it as a valuable opportunity to assess alien reactions and capabilities. "Remember," Jack told his team, "this isn't about intimidation. It's about precision. We want to show them that what we lack in technology, we make up for in skill and discipline. A convoy of vehicles approached from the direction of the command post. Captain Lisa Winters stepped out of the lead vehicle, followed by Cultural Specialist Trelawnor and Senior Commander Vrelzeth. Several other Valaxians followed, each wearing their distinctive armored suits. Major Simmons, Lisa said formally. Our guests have arrived for the demonstration. Jack stepped forward. Welcome, Senior. Commander, we've prepared a variety of demonstrations to show you how our weapon systems function. Vrelzeth nodded, the movement strange and slightly mechanical inside his armored suit. We are most interested to observe. The Consortium has limited data on projectile weapon usage in advanced civilizations. Jack led the group to the first station, where Staff Sergeant Frank Delgado waited with his M4 carbine. This is one of our standard infantry weapons, Jack explained. It fires a 5.56 mm round at approximately 3,000 feet per second. The aliens listened attentively as Jack described the weapon's specifications. Their sensor equipment recorded everything, analyzing the mechanical components and chemical composition of the ammunition. Would you like to see it in operation? Jack asked. Please proceed, Vrelzeth said. Jack nodded to Delgado, who raised his rifle, took aim at a target 100 yards away, and fired 3 quick shots. Each one hit the center of the target, the impacts less than an inch apart. The Valaxians observed silently. Trelanor's sensors recorded the velocity and impact energy of each round. Most impressive accuracy, Trelawnor commented. How much training is required to achieve such results? Extensive, Jack said. Our soldiers train constantly to maintain their skills. Then moved to the next station, where Sergeant Linda Powell demonstrated a sniper rifle, making a perfect shot on a target 500 yards distant. Then came machine guns, shotguns, and finally, a demonstration of close-quarters combat techniques. Throughout it all, the Valaxians watched and recorded, occasionally asking technical questions about the weapons or the training methods used. As the demonstration concluded, Vrelzeth turned to Jack. Your weapons are indeed primitive by our standards, Major Simmons. But your people's proficiency with them is remarkable. I begin to understand how you have survived and thrived despite your technological limitations. Jack wasn't sure if that was a compliment or an insult, but he nodded politely. Thank you, Senior Commander. We work with what we have. Indeed, Vrelzeth said. I would like to offer a reciprocal demonstration. Would you care to observe some of our capabilities? Jack exchanged glances with Lisa. This was an unexpected opportunity. We would be honored, he said. The group moved to an open area where several Valaxian security officers stood waiting. At a command from Vrelzeth, they activated their weapon-sleek devices that seemed to be built into their armor. Our standard energy projectors, Vrelzeth explained. They convert power from our suits into focused energy beams. Unlike your projectile weapons, they require no physical ammunition. The officers fired at targets they had set up, each shot a brilliant blue beam that hit with perfect accuracy. There was almost no sound except for a soft hum and the crack of impact. Impressive, Jack acknowledged. No recoil, no reload needed, precisely, Vrelzeth said. Far more efficient than your system. After the energy weapons, the Valaxians demonstrated their shield technology, their sensor systems, and even their communication devices. Each piece of technology was centuries beyond what humans possessed. When the demonstrations concluded, both groups gathered in a neutral area between the two sites. The mood was more relaxed now, with both humans and aliens having gained a measure of respect for each other's capabilities. Major Simmons, Vrelzeth said, based on what I have observed, I will recommend to the Consortium that Earth be reclassified as a Level 4 civilization, worthy of limited diplomatic relations rather than simple guidance. We appreciate that, Jack said carefully, though we would prefer to determine our own path in the galaxy. Vrelzeth made a gesture that might have been the alien equivalent of a shrug. That is not for me to decide. The Consortium has protocols for such matters. Before Jack could respond, alarms suddenly blared from the Valaxian ships. Vrelzeth received a communication through his suit, his posture immediately tensing. "We have detected multiple atmospheric entries," he said. "High velocity. Objects on approach vectors to our position." Jack's radio crackled to life. "Major, this is command. We're tracking multiple unidentified objects entering the atmosphere." "Not ours, repeat, not ours." "Senior Commander," Jack said urgently, "we are also detecting these objects." "They are not Earth vessels." Vrelzeth's next words sent a chill through the human officers. "They are Korthari vessels, a rival faction to the consortium. They must have detected our transmission and followed us here." "Hostile?" Jack asked. "Extremely," Vrelzeth confirmed. "They will see your world as a resource to be harvested, not a civilization to be integrated." The sky darkened as 7 new ships, with sharp, angular designs unlike the smooth Valaxian vessels, descended through the clouds. They immediately opened fire on the Valaxian ships, energy beams lancing down from above. "We must return to our vessels," Vrelzeth said. "This is now a matter for the consortium military." "We can help," Jack offered. "Our forces would be destroyed," Vrelzeth interrupted. "Your weapons cannot penetrate Korthari shields." As if to prove his point, one of the Ranger snipers fired at the closest Korthari ship. The bullet hit the shield and disintegrated harmlessly. The Valaxians hurried back toward their ships, which were now returning fire against the Korthari vessels. The air filled with energy beams and explosive impacts. Jack and his team fell back to a defensive position, unsure how to proceed. They couldn't hurt the new aliens, but they couldn't just stand by while a battle raged above them. Suddenly, a Korthari scout ship broke away from the main battle and descended directly toward the human position. It fired an energy beam that cut through the trees nearby, sending soldiers diving for cover. Staff Sergeant Frank Delgado stood his ground, firing his M4 at the ship despite knowing it was futile. The alien vessels seemed to focus on him, perhaps identifying him as a threat despite his ineffective weapon. As Delgado continued firing, his rifle suddenly clicked empty. The sound was barely audible amid the chaos, but in that moment something unexpected happened. Delgado, with the calm precision that came from years of training, lowered his rifle slightly and said to Private Rodriguez beside him, "Reload." His voice was steady, almost conversational, despite the alien ship bearing down on them. Rodriguez handed him a fresh magazine, which Delgado inserted smoothly before resuming fire. Inside the Korthari ship, sensors designed to detect energy weapons suddenly registered an anomaly. The human's calm voice, contrasting with the mechanical sounds of their weapons, triggered an alert. The Korthari, like the Valaxians before them, had never encountered a species that used such primitive weapons with such professional discipline. The ship hesitated, its attack pattern interrupted by the unexpected data. In that moment of hesitation, a Valaxian energy beam struck it from behind. The Korthari vessel spun out of control and crashed into the cornfield. Its shield failing, above, the battle continued between the Valaxian and Korthari fleets. But on the ground, a moment of understanding had occurred, one that would change the course of Earth's relationship with the galaxy. 2 weeks later, as the Valaxian diplomatic vessel prepared to depart Earth, Commander Zygtar met with Major Simmons one last time. "The consortium has granted Earth provisional independent status," Zygtar informed him. "Your assistance against the Korthari, limited though it was, has been noted." Jack smiled slightly. "Sometimes just standing your ground is enough." Zygtar nodded. "Indeed. And sometimes it is not the roar of the beast that is most fearsome, but the calm voice that controls it." As the Valaxian ship rose into the sky, Jack thought about how a simple misunderstanding had ultimately worked in humanity's favor. The aliens had feared the roars were beasts, until they heard a voice calmly say, "Reload," and in that moment they glimpsed the true strength of humanity.